journey takes us to the point where consciousness reveals the awareness of who we are. This precipice of awareness guides our path of revelation through contact, interaction, and disclosure. We are on the threshold of evolutionary realizations, technologies, and awareness of our place in the universe. We are the phenomena. Welcome to MUFON Contact Radio with your host, Richard Banasak.
Welcome, everybody. I really like that guy's voice, the intro guy. He sounds sort of Jimmy Church-ish and all that. It's just very cool. Hey, welcome. This is the MUFON Contact Radio Show, and yes, I am your host, Richard Banasak. Hey, we've done a number of recent episodes with guests, and we always love guests. And this one, we're going to try to do a little bit of a solo act, and in our journey during this particular episode, we're going to look at the world of the U.S. military and its relationship to the secret world of research and development, and of course, the phenomenon. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands that for me, we are the phenomenon. And that's a significant thing in terms of what it really means. Anyway, just to let you know, there are everybody understands there are many military installations and training facilities in the United States and throughout the world where high strangeness occurs on a regular basis. Today we will look at what MUFON, and specifically a case that I investigated, and what my investigation led to uncover other investigations that MUFON and another site had learned. And again, this particular episode, where we're going to look at the National Training Center, which is located at Fort Irwin, California. But before we get started, I just want to encourage everybody who's watching this show that if you have any kind of experience, sightings, any kind of contact, interaction, obviously abduction, and or you are part of the military or you're a veteran and you have experienced what I'm about to share with you, any type of high strangeness or anything at any military installation or wherever you were stationed, because we all know that the military is a place where research and development uses those folks who are in the service as test subjects. We all know that. So that's my email address, mufoninvestigatorban@aol.com. mufoninvban@aol.com. You can reach me there. So let's get started on what we hope are going to be an exciting show, and I think that you will like it. But before we get into our military, you know as good as I do that I always like to share something that I think is of interest. And for those of you who like to do investigations, for those of you who are wondering who MUFON is, and there's many great investigators out there from all kinds of organizations, and MUFON is blessed to have the backbone and core of who MUFON is, which is the volunteers, and of course those who also do field investigations. So if you're interested in doing a field investigation, you can reach out to MUFON. We do a lot of work. We do field work. We do investigations. Some of the investigations are very short. Some of them are months or years, as you'll see with the ones that are coming up. So if you're interested, please, this poster was created, and I thought it was a good view about what we do and what we hope to learn and just have as many people that we can be part of what we are at MUFON. So if you're interested, please reach out. All right. So for our subject today and the military and facilities, we're going to go to the National Training Center at Fort Irwin, California. And, like all training facilities, Fort Irwin is in a location away from everybody, especially in California, in the east. I'm sorry, in the western part of the country. As you can see, this map indicates the California state. That highlighted orange area is the county that Fort Irwin is located in, and it's San Bernardino County. The dot that's up above it is right where it's located, and that's sort of a map of the general area. And I have a little bit better one. This is an aerial view of Fort Irwin, and many soldiers have been a part of what it is there. But just to give you some little background about Fort Irwin, Fort Irwin is the home of the United States Army's training center, which is located in, as I said, San Bernardino County, which is Southern California. It's about 35 miles north of the town of Barstow. Now, just to give you an idea about that area, so Barstow is real close to the California-Nevada state line, which is next to Las Vegas. And so you have Las Vegas, Nellis Area 51. Just north of that is that big test range of Area 51 and the Tonopah area. And of course, south of this Barstow area, you have a number of bases, 29 Palms, Joshua Tree, March Air Force Base. So there's a lot of, and then of course, a little bit west of that is Edwards, and just a whole aspect of what happens in Lancaster out there in where Edwards is. Anyway, the installation was established by President Franklin Roosevelt as a sub installation for a base in Camp Han, which is in Riverside County, which is the county south of San Bernardino. In 1981, the U.S. Army created the National Training Center at Fort Irwin, and the idea was to train the Armored Brigade, the U.S. Army's Armored Brigade combat teams to win, the first fight. But there have been many reports of strange things, high strangeness that has occurred at the facility. And so one of the things I'd like to share with everybody before we get into some of those strange things is just a little bit of a video on YouTube that I found. And I gave credit to the people who created. There's many great videos of Fort Irwin there and the things that they do. I just thought that this was one. So let's see how that goes.
What you see is not a Middle Eastern town, but a complex of mock villages built at the Fort Irwin National Training Center. These villages, built in a section of the 2,600 square kilometer training center, look like a movie set, which is not surprising. They were constructed with the help of Hollywood set designers. Soldiers train here before being deployed to Syria and Iraq. U.S. Army Sergeant First Class Cody Britton trains soldiers to maneuver through a complex tunnel system. Everything in these tunnels, the gunfire, explosions and thick smoke, was designed to create sensory overload. Britton says soldiers need to learn to stay focused in extreme situations.
When gunfire starts happening and you put a 17, 18-year-old in front of gunfire, some of them haven't been around gunfire or gunshots or explosions. Sometimes they'll cry, sometimes they'll curl up in a ball, or sometimes they just freeze. They don't know what to do. The other reaction, they'll just fight. They'll, have the fight or flight method. And a lot of them, some of them will fight, and some of them will get scared. And that's the type of stuff you need to hash out before you go overseas.
But there is more to Fort Irwin than physical and psychological exercises and drills. Soldiers also undergo so-called cultural training. That's the reason this bazaar is here. Wissam Al-Jibouri is from Iraq and used to work as a military translator there. When it became too dangerous to stay, he was granted asylum in the United States and now works at Fort Irwin, helping American soldiers understand his native country.
It helps me when I train or help someone here before they go overseas and make the mistake. So we kind of cultural advise, like don't do that, be aware of this. Something he's not introduced to, a soldier, and it could just help him very much.
Soldiers call the fictional country where they train Etropia, and their duty is to protect its citizens from the soldiers of the enemy state, called Denovia. This unit is rehearsing various battle tactics in case of an ambush. They practice returning fire, evacuating the wounded, and firing rockets at the enemy from a multiple rocket launcher. Army Private Abigail Bergosa was among the enemy troops that were just destroyed by the US forces.
I mean, it feels weird because we're supposed to protect people, but it's a training as well to see it on both sides.
This town, with over 500 buildings, is the biggest of 15 in Fort Irwin. While costly to build, Fort Irwin offers free public tours, in part to show average Americans how their tax dollars are being spent. Jenya Dulo for VOA News, Fort Irwin, California.
So, I mean, I just want to make sure we give credit to the people, Voice of America, for that. Now, at MUFON, we get many cases from veterans, from people who were in the military, who are currently in the military, all over the country. And so one of the things that I've learned is that there are those soldiers and Marines and sailors and all the other workers and people who are part of that, both support and intelligence and all of it, have seen very many things. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to take you on an additional journey about cases that were involved with that MUFON receives. And the reason why this is important is because, we're going to see that happens. And this episode, I would like to concentrate on this as an example to the greater picture of what the people in the military see on a daily basis. So this particular case is a case that I received back in 2024. It was the latter part of 2024. The case reporting party was a U.S. Army veteran. And the location that he said he was at the time was at the National Training Center at Fort Irwin. And the incident date was around July 10th to the 14th, first week of July, 1993. And to give you a little background on this particular case, the witness who reported was a serving NCO with the 1st Cavalry Division. And he described a night training exercise where a large light appeared in the sky. This light was ball-shaped and flickering, visible to over 100 infantry soldiers, many of them combat veterans. Now, one of the things, this particular sighting happened during the early morning hours. So we're talking about after midnight to about 2 or 3 in the morning. Now, the witness said that this particular light that they saw, it grew in size. And then at a particular point, it created this beam of light that shot across the sky, turning basically the night into noon. And that really surprised everybody. He said that the phenomenon that happened, this particular thing, lasted about 10 seconds. And then, of course, all of a sudden, this light, whatever it was, vanished. It's like, and we get this all the time with sightings. He said it just sort of vanished suddenly, like somebody turned out, or what we call blinking out. So we have stories and, of course, evidence and video of the blink out effect. Anyway, the thing that he also said that was interesting, over the radio, the commander, because there was an exercise, he heard over the radio the commander to say, "What the hell was that?" The commander being the one who was in charge of the exercise and of the base. And he and the soldiers who were there were unable to identify the object. The event caused confusion and astonishment. One of the things that this veteran said to me, he said the next day at morning formation, the commander of the 18th Airborne Corps group out of Fort Bragg, General Sheldon, along with a Lieutenant Colonel Tommy Franks, well known, addressed the morning formation and explained the whole thing away as an aborted missile from White Sands Missile Range, and then the matter was closed. Now, it's interesting because part of my investigation is to try to determine. So I learned in looking at the history of White Sands through NASA and Army that there was no missile fired from White Sands that day. Usually they'll make these public just so that the public will know if they see lights, but we weren't able to find any either from White Sands or Vandenberg at that particular time. Now, what I have on the screen is an AI image of the event. Now, this image was created by the AI program that I used based on only the description from what our reporting party said. And as you can see, it was this sphere, and it beamed down a light in the middle of the night, and it shone on all of the soldiers that were there. And the other picture is just a series of how the light appeared. It came on, it got bigger, it shone this light, and then all of a sudden it blinked out. So I thought that was a pretty cool representation. So the other characteristics that we got for this particular object was its behavior, which is very important. The object appears as a large ball-shaped light with a flickering type on and off quality. It remained visible long enough for numerous soldiers to observe it clearly during the exercise. The light increased in apparent size while suspended in the sky. It then emitted or projected a powerful beam of light across the sky, producing an intense illumination effect over the entire area, is what the reporting party said. He said the phenomenon was extremely brief overall because it only lasted a very short period of time, 10 seconds. They saw a light, it got bigger, it did that particular shooting of a beam, and then it blinked out. It disappeared. Its disappearance was abrupt and instantaneous, described as if a light had been switched off, or as I said before, it blinked out. There was no conventional aircraft structure that anybody could see. There was no sounds. There was no identifiable flight pattern or path that was reported in the account. Before we get to the second case, I just want to emphasize a couple of things. So I took this case and, with the reporting party, and now this happened in 93, I got it in 24. So it had been, 30 plus years since this person. Now, this person is in his 50s. He's retired. He decided to report it. And so when we look at that overall description and then the detail that he provided, not only the times, the dates, and we're able to vet and confirm that, the credibility of the information is tremendous. What I also did is we check our own records and we see if there's been any prior reported sightings. Just because there wasn't any reported sightings doesn't mean there wasn't any sightings. So this next case that I want to bring up, and you already saw, is a case that I found that also was reported by MUFON. This incident date was similar to the last one, but a year later in 94. It happened at the same location, the National Training Center at Fort Irwin. The reporting party in this particular case, this case number 2, was also a U.S. Army veteran. And overall, the report was received in 2023. And again, in just like the other case, here's the summary of the case. The report described an event witnessed by 2 Army personnel on guard duty at Fort Irwin, California, in the early morning hours of June 15, 1994. While stationed in the Mojave Desert, they observed an aircraft-like object moving silently along a mountain ridge while projecting a sharply defined light. Again, similar attributes. As the object approached, they realized that it did that it did not behave like a conventional either helicopter or military aircraft, similar to the previous story. It made no sound, stopped abruptly in midair, and then instantly repositioned itself directly in front of them. Again, at an estimated distance of between 1,500 feet away, and it was away from them, and it was 1,000 feet in the air. The report said that they were startled at the behavior because they were looking at it. It seemed like it recognized them, and then it came towards them, and then stopped in the middle of the air and in the ground above the ground. Again, this was a particular point of reference by the person who made the report. Anyway, at this point, the object's light reportedly inverted from shining downward to shining upward. In a sudden motion, the object shot straight up and disappeared. Again, one of those observables that were instantaneous acceleration, and then it was gone. The witness then observed a large expanding ring of light. Again, interesting. We talk about rings of light not only at nighttime, during the day, and a lot of times there, as a result of this, aside from other prosaic type things, this light was bright enough to illuminate the area like daylight. Again, similar at approximately 2:30 a.m. in the morning. Again, similar to our first case. The ring widened to an estimated mile across before gradually fading away. And again, we're not talking about a small thing. We're talking about a large thing. The witness stated that there was no military activity occurring at the time, and that both observers were left shocked by what they had seen. They chose not to report the event at the time out of fear of possible repercussions from the military, as you can expect. We get this all the time. Nobody's going to believe them, or if they say anything, they're going to lose their clearance, they're going to be transferred, or maybe they were just told, you don't say anything. This picture that you see is a picture of the witness that the witness drew of what he saw. I thought it was pretty cool, and I always like to have people who are actually reporting stuff to us to either video, photo, or through recall, or if they did it right away, create what they either saw or experienced. And then, as you can see, it looks triangular. I'm not saying it was exactly like that. He was doing the best he can, but it had this general overall chevron type feature. And then, of course, it was beaming a light down. I also, like the previous one, had an AI generate based on the information that the reporting party reported. And what you see here is a similar craft. It is triangular if you look at it. The top portrait, the bottom one picture is that ring that it created based on the information from the reporting party. And again, it lit up the whole desert. And I'm sure, the people who reported it, were truly surprised at what they saw. Finally, I just want to get to the behavior of the object before we go to break, because after the break, we're going to talk about an additional stuff that relates to the base that is truly amazing. Anyway, they tracked the object from the mountain ridge. It projected a focused light downward. It was sharp, crisp, cone-shaped light. It remained completely silent. There was no sound at all. It stopped abruptly in midair, which is another pattern. It changed position instantly, again, moving, jerking, and the acceleration, extreme acceleration, or instantaneous relocation is part of that characteristic of what we saw. And then the other thing that was significant about this particular sighting that I'd like to share with them, it reversed its light orientation from downward to upward. And again, it's hard to put your mind around how that would have occurred. Before we go, it departed vertically at an extreme speed, went straight up. It left behind this luminous sort of after effect, that ring. It was expanding as they left. It produced, because of the ring, this enormous and intense illumination, like daylight at 2:30 a.m. in the morning, and then it obviously expanded and then it dissipated. The object was described as moving with precision, silence, abrupt stopping ability, instantaneous reposition and an extremely rapid vertical acceleration, followed by an unusual light phenomena that that obviously persist after its departure. Before we go, before we finish, I just want to let you know these reports that we get, especially these two, um, they're similar, they're consistent, and the reporting parties both were very detailed in what they shared with not only me but one of the companion investigators from another district that the reporting party reported it. But again, it shows that these things are happening everywhere, especially at Fort Irwin. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to break in just a second. We're going to come back. I have another reporting organization that received a similar report, and then we're going to discuss that. So we'll be right back.
Join us in Cincinnati, August the 27th through the 30th for one of the premier UFO conferences in the United States. The MUFON Symposium 2026, UFO Revelations, Impact on Society and Science. This year's event features keynote speakers Alex Dietrich and the intrepid Peter Robbins, along with 8 additional investigators, researchers, and authors presenting the latest developments in UFO research and disclosure. Master of Ceremonies Stacy Wright will guide attendees through 4 unforgettable days of presentations, discussions, vendors, and special events. Register today at MUFONSymposium.com. That's MUFONSymposium.com.
Patriox oxygen water addresses a condition called hypoxia, which is insufficient oxygen in the cells and tissues. The fact is that hypoxia triggers 90% of all chronic conditions, including circulation issues, low oxygen levels in the blood, and more. By drinking Patriox oxygen water, you can restore oxygen levels in the body, restore energy, reduce age spots, and renew stem cells. Now, as an UNX listener, you can get 10% off of Patriox Ultra High Oxygen Content Water at patriox.us/discount/UNX News, or check the shop page at UNX Network for more information.
Welcome back. Hey, thanks for coming back. Our second hour is going to continue with our investigation of strangeness that happened at the National Training Center over there at Fort Irwin, California. And those first 2 cases, the first one I investigated and then did the follow-up and found the second one and did some further investigation and created what you saw with the AI recreations in addition to the drawings. And I thought that they were very fascinating. And, a lot of times, what's reported obviously is only a small sample of really what people see all the time. So, I mean, even though, let's say we get 8,000, 9,000, 10,000, 20,000 a year reporting of sightings at MUFON, if that's 10%, 20% of what actually people see or experience, I'd be surprised. So for those of you out there, if you are encouraged by what we have shown with these sightings at the military installation, please reach out to us, reach out to me. I'm going to give you my email address again. But I want to continue our talk about, again, similar reporting. This next case is our third case that relates to Fort Irwin and that particular time. This is from the National.
Time out.
Okay, I got it.
Make believe you just ended the rap like the commercial. Start over. Your microphone is hitting your chin and I could hear it.
Okay.
So make believe, then I'll edit it out. Make believe that you just came back from break.
Okay. Hey, welcome back. Thank you very much for coming back and seeing us. And I hope the first half hour of our show with those two MUFON cases um, were of interest to you, and they are definitely an interest to me. And I did the first investigation, and which led to uncovering the second investigation because we like to sort of validate those. And I thought it was pretty interesting and detailed. So now we're going to go and continue with our sojourn with these cases. Now, this third case also involves the National Training Center at Fort Irwin. Now, there's many organizations and folks that who investigate reports. The National UFO Reporting Center is one of a very good site, and I appreciate what they did, and I use them for research and background to try to validate and see if there's others. And so this particular case I found occurred at Fort Irwin, and it was observed which the reporting party observed an object that they described while they were there. The dates of this, which is interesting, was also in August of 1994, and it was actually late at night, not as in the middle of the night, but sort of around, as it says there, 10:40 to 11 o'clock. It's a primary, what they call New Fork case. You'll see the number there. The witness was, again, an Army a soldier, whether he was a veteran or of the reporting. I think he reported it years later. So this is when he was there at the National Training Center. And then, as it says there, the object was a yellow aerial light, initially resembling a distant aircraft, later described as performing these particular maneuvers. You know, and again, we're going to follow the same kind of thing. Here's the case summary. The witness states he was on perimeter duty, like all folks who work at these particular installations at Fort Irwin at night, observing the sky under clear desert conditions. He noticed a yellow orange light moving steadily and initially treated it as a conventional aircraft because he sees a light. There's a bunch of lights out there. If you're familiar with the air, you can see for miles, and there's all kinds of aircraft and prosaic things that happen. After losing and reacquiring the object, obviously he was watching, he reported that it became stationary and then executed side to side and up and down motions around a central point. I'm sure that probably surprised him. Stationary, moves, stops, and then up and down and side to side. That's probably pretty unusual. The witness further described a more complex motion resembling a four-leaf clover pattern with pauses in between the movements. And I thought, wow. I mean, is it? And I have an example of what the AI created so you can see a better visual of it. He attempted to get binocular confirmation from another soldier, but the main movement sequence ended before he could do so. So he was trying to cooperate, obviously, with one of his fellow soldiers. He then reported a final phase in which the object appeared to arc upward and depart rapidly. So we get this same thing about all of a sudden it moves and then it takes off. We get that side arcing and instantaneous acceleration. After the aerial event, he stated that 7 helicopters entered the area, circled, and then departed. In this particular case, I had the AI create a number of generated photo pictures based on the description that the reporting party made. So what you're seeing here is what he says entered and then did this circular motion. Now this next series is even more bizarre because these are sort of the AI's response to the changing in direction. As you can see, the four-leaf clover, the movement, the bouncing, the stationary, the up and down, and then of course the arc, as you can see in the sequence that happened. And this is what the reporting soldier shared with New Fork. And I thought it was pretty interesting because as you notice from the previous cases, both of them, there was a lot of similarities in nighttime movements, the lights, the patterns. And again, these are soldiers who are trained to be good observers. And so they see all kinds of things at night. They see all kinds of munitions and explosions and patterns and copters and aircraft. So when they report things like this, we take a significant interest because this is anomalous. Anyway, so I went on and I wanted to make sure that we also gave this idea about the behavior of what the object was doing. I mean, that the reporting party remembered. He said that the object was reported to begin as a steady yellow-orange light moving in a way that initially resembled an ordinary aircraft. It then appeared stationary, according to the witness, executed repeated symmetrical maneuvers around a fixed central point, like it was showing off. And we get that a lot with people who see things. And we think that they don't see us, but then all of a sudden they stop, and then they sort of act in such a way that it appears that they're either displaying or talking or interacting to show that, hey, there's some intelligence and there's some things going on there. These included lateral movements, vertical movements, as you saw in the drawing, and more complex clover-like pattern, which I thought was incredible, with brief pauses between each of the sequences so that they were distinct. In its final phase, the object was described as arcing, as you saw in that one picture, upward and then departing rapidly at an angle, producing an apparent visual effect in which the light seemed to occupy both its original position and its destination almost. Its destination almost simultaneously. We get these types of reports a lot, and I will tell you that. As you can see, and I'm going to go back just to give you, just to show you the picture. Again, these pictures are incredible. So I'm going to give you a second just to look at those pictures, and I want you to study just the behaviors that these pictures demonstrate. And so they're in sequence, and from right to left to right, however your screen is, how it approaches, then its behaviors. I mean, it's truly astonishing. And the AI generated this, as I said, based on the testimony, not based on my recollection or what I think I saw. It strictly went from what was reported, which I thought was pretty cool. Give you a couple more seconds to look at that. Now, having said that, I also did some follow-up investigation on all three of those. And what I found, and again, this is only an example. What you're seeing is you're seeing two, one's a video, one's a photograph. These were both reported and uploaded online. Now, the picture that you see is of an object during the daytime that was taken, and this picture was uploaded to a Facebook page that a group of soldiers for Fort Irwin and the National Training Center created so that they can share their stories. And so I thought that was pretty interesting. So what it is, I don't know. The other one was some soldiers filmed with this thermal type imaging, a bright UFO orbs arranging into a triangle at Fort Irwin. I wasn't able to find this video. And by the way, if anybody is aware of where I can find this video, please let me know, because I'd like to see it. Again, this is additional corroboration of other strangeness that happened at that training facility that people have experienced. Now, these are relatively recent sightings with about a photo and a video. So this just didn't happen years ago, and I'm sure, like anything else, this has been going on since anybody can remember. So the other thing I found, and a lot of people are aware of Dr. Stephen Greer, and he's done a lot of work, and he has a number of books, and his Disclosure Project has a plethora of information. His recent book that he wrote, and I think it was in 2025, was an illustration. It was called Disclosure: An Illustrated History. And in the book, he identifies a number of cases and facts. But in this one particular case, he had a witness blower, Stephen Digna Jr., who was a private first class in the United States Army, and he was stationed at Fort Irwin where he witnessed a V-shaped UAP built by Raytheon with recovered UAP. And again, when we do these investigations, we try to get as much information as to try to figure out what is the reporting part of reporting. Did they see anomalous? What was it? And so I thought this was pretty cool. And as you can see in the picture, but what I did, because I like the recreation so much, I wanted to show you this just in terms of a wider screen. This was created by Michael Charette, and great work that he does. You can find him online. He does a lot of recreations, and he created this, again, desert landscape, soldiers. As you can see from the picture, it's similar to the ones that I've showed you already. I mean, it's whether it's a V shape or a triangle or if it's a light. The other thing that is interesting about this, and we're going to talk about this in our final segment today, and this is the thing that's really significant to me. So now the question is we got at least some information, facts. What do they mean? As an investigator, as a seeker of hopefully the truth and reality, I want to know, well, what did those soldiers either witness and experience at Fort Irwin in the past, what they're saying today, and came up with 4 general thoughts. And again, this is not all inclusive. This is just my particular opinion about it. So the first one I want to talk to you about is obviously this idea of a conventional but obviously misperceived or misunderstood aircraft or military activity. Now, this can be a classified and or experimental aircraft that nobody knows about, that you have soldiers in a training facility. They would be the ones that you could expose them to. And of course, because they're in the military, they're subject to all the classification and disclosure issues. And so they're actually a good audience to have. And, we all know that the military has experimented a lot, mostly on their own folks, because they can, and there's a lot of, confidentiality that relates to that. Some of it is controversial, some of it is not. But anyway, that's a possibility. The other thing is what they saw, or what those other folks saw in this particular case, was a lighting or an atmospheric phenomena of nature. There's all kinds of natural things that happen. Look at the meteor that just happened not too long ago in the East Coast at this time, June 2026. A large explosion affected a lot of folks. The lights, the aurora borealis, that recently you were able to see in North America. And I mean, people never seen that stuff before. And, they think it's, anomalous, many times. And I know you may find this fascinating or funny. A lot of times we get sightings of a light in the sky at nighttime, and it's the brightest thing. And then people, they don't see it, then it's gone, and they report it. And we find out only because of through investigation and knowledge that it's Venus, the morning star. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't look up, and so they're not aware of the things that necessarily up there. So it could be any of those things. It could be a combination of an object plus optical effects, known or unknown. And then we get this a lot. People will report with a combination of an object and the way light is and the way they view it. There's this thing called parallax, where you think something's not moving, but it's actually moving at a distance. Distortion, we're not able to perceive the way it looks from that particular standpoint. So we think it's either moving or not moving or dropping. And so those are things that happen. And so one of the other areas that I want to spend a little bit of time about is, and this is where I like to go only if the facts, the data, the investigation lead like anything else. And it could have genuinely been an unidentified event that cannot be resolved from the accounts alone. For example, it could have been a UFO. It could have been a UAP. it could have been something that was reverse engineered by our government and tested in an area like the desert or Fort Irwin on controlled conditions, i.e., U.S. military personnel who would not say anything, who could not say anything, by a subcontractor like Raytheon or any of the other big subcontractor aerospace to see what it would do, how people would react, and perform. Like anything else, you want things that you create through research and development, whether it's back engineering or whatever, you want to be able to test fly it. And so this is a significant possibility. And so one of the final things that I want to encourage everybody, and I say this because it really means something significant. I would like anybody who is watching this, or if you get this information, I'm seeking more information about what I shared today about these three cases, and then the follow-up information of from Facebook, Dr. Greer, and others, of anybody who has experienced these similar type of events at Fort Irwin, at any of the bases out on the West Coast. The East Coast has a number of significant bases that all kinds of things happen up the top of Maine, Connecticut, through Long Island, all the way down, to Virginia Beach, Georgia, all the way down to Florida, and then all over in between there and the West Coast. There's all kinds of bases. So I want to emphasize, this is my email. Again, I'm just going to, for those of you who just happen to be listening to this on audio only, my email is mufoninvan@AOL.com. And I also want to add as a caveat, if you've experienced a sighting and you want to share it, whether it's with MUFON or if you want to share it to me and I can direct you, or I can be more than happy to look at it, or if you wish to experience something like contact or an interaction, and in some cases maybe even abductions, because I also do those sort of investigations. And of course, as you can be aware, those take a little bit longer, and are a lot more involved. But again, I want to reach out to everybody and to be able to share these things with you, because I think it's important. So again, please, mufoninvan@AOL.com. I want you to reach out to me. I want you to know that whatever you reach out, if you would like it confidential, or if you just want us to talk, we can do that. Or if you have things that you want me to put you in contact with people who can either do further analysis, we have access to list of support groups, and we have access to hypno-regressionists who can help those who, like the thing about these cases that were reported, almost all of them have been reported 25 to 30 years later. And that's a significant factor, because what happens is what happens in our youth, albeit it could be fascinating, but some of it could be traumatic, or some of it we just forgot. And for some reason, we're always meant to remember it. And then we're not sure, should we reveal it? Would I get in trouble? Do I have a security oath? Will people make fun of me? And then years later, when you become a little bit more mature and older, you feel like, hey, I need to tell somebody about this. And so a lot of these people who report this are in their late 40s, most of them in their 50s and 60s. And they are just the type of people that I believe, just because of their experience and their credibility, would be open, and we would be open to hearing and listening to them. Okay, so I've read that. I really like the fact, and I hope that you like it. So before we go, I want to make sure that I often will suggest and talk about a number of things in terms of closing thoughts. And the reason why is the whole purpose of these cases that I shared with you, and especially the recreations through AI, what they've done and what the significance about all the sightings is that there was this large illumination from those spheres, the craft, the lights, enough to where it turned night into day. And that's really what this channel and this episode and what I'm about is illumination, illuminating a path so that you can start seeing a little bit more of what's around us. And then through that illumination of the path, we learn new discoveries, and it takes who we are as seekers to another level of self-realization. And that's really the idea and intent here. And I just want to share that with you. And I just want you all to know before we go that we are the phenomena. And as the phenomena, the whole intent here is to find out who you are, who we really are, and be that. Thank you for being a part of this episode, and we'll see you next time.